Hi everyone, Heather here with astrologywithheather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. This one is for Monday, March 29th, all the way through to Sunday, April 4th of 2021. And this week brings us a major shift in our mindset. Oh my goodness, is it night and day from the way that we start the week and the way that we end the week. Mercury is in the sign of Pisces on Monday, making an exact conjunction with Neptune, which is an energy that's been building for, at least a week or so now. And it's coming to its peak. It's coming to its final resting point here or end point here where things are going to be a little bit confusing. This is a great energy if you want to tap into your imagination or contemplate or speak about something really weird. But if you're looking to convey really accurate, really grounded facts and figures and down to earth information, if you're looking to understand things in a logical, linear fashion, this is not the time for it. However, at the end of this week, we actually have Mercury shifting into the sign of Aries. And this is an energy where we're going to be thinking much more clearly, very, very sharp and very precise in our thinking. We're going to be speaking in a way that's much less gentle and compassionate and much more direct and straightforward. It is like a completely different energy, especially because Mercury in its detriment and in its fall in the sign of Pisces is making that conjunction to Neptune, which is a very confusing, disorienting type of energy. We're going to be daydreaming. We're going to be off in la la land. And then all of a sudden things are going to snap us back into reality as we come into this weekend. And so before we get into all of that, I just want to mention for those who are new to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I do a new weekly forecast every single Saturday at 9 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, or usually I do. This week I'm a few hours late, and a lot of people notice because I'm typically very on time with these things. But I promise I'm going to get back to my normal recording schedule next week. And so hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you never miss an important astrology update. And even if you're not new to my channel, the way that I structure my videos is that I start out with a 5 to 10 minute general forecast. Don't skip this because this is going to provide an important context for the energy we'll be describing when we get into your forecast for your sign in the 12 signs forecast. Speaking of which, when we do get into the forecast for all 12 signs, make sure you listen to your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign so you can get a full, complete, holistic overview of the energy for your week ahead. Your rising sign is going to be the most predominant energy. Your sun sign will be secondary, and your moon sign is important to listen to as well, although this energy will be a little bit more internalized and subjective. Finally, at the end of each video, I do a 2 to 3 minute overview of the energy we'll be discussing in next week's forecast, and so stick around until the end if that's something you're interested in. And so moving back into the energy of this week. So basically, we're starting out the week on Monday kind of with a lot of energy. So we have the Sun conjunct Chiron exact. So Chiron is technically going to be Cazimi if it were a planet, right? If it were one of the traditional planets. And so, this is something where you can look at it being an energy where healing and our ability to heal ourselves, our ability to understand past traumas, past circumstances, past wounds, and move past old guilt, shame, vulnerability, wounded energy in our lives, that is amplified. This is also a time where we can reach out and branch out to heal other people a little bit more effectively. And so, this energy, even though it's not technically Cazimi energy, even though it's not involving the traditional planets, it's still very strong while we have that exact conjunction between the Sun and Chiron, which happens actually at 2:09 a.m. overnight on Monday, so early in the morning for most of you, and it'll only be exact for a couple of hours before and after. So just kind of keep that in mind. So if there's something that you want to heal through, if there's something that's been coming up for you, because it has been for a lot of people, especially last week, and if you go back to listen to last week's forecast, you'll understand a little bit more about why and how that's been impacting you. If that's been the case for you, then this is your moment in time where you'll get that clarity, you'll get that insight, and you'll be able to heal and move on. With the energy of Mercury conjunct Neptune, this comes exact Monday night. And this is something that's been building for several days, if not a couple of weeks. And it's still going to carry on and still be a really predominant energy until this weekend, because Mercury is going to continue to transit the sign of Pisces, and it'll continue to be in both a sign-based and a degree-based conjunction. So, what does this all mean? So, as I've mentioned before, Mercury is at its detriment and at its fall in traditional astrology when it's in the sign of Pisces. This means it doesn't operate in a normal capacity, or it has to kind of approach things in a more roundabout way. It has to find ways to make adjustments and ways to work with the energy that it has, even though it's not an energy that aligns with its natural tendencies. And so, Mercury is the sign or the planet that's associated with the analytical mind, logic, reason, communication. And Neptune has to do with otherworldly energies. It dissolves everything it touches, it makes everything more elusive. It makes everything more confusing, much more foggy, much more surreal. It's not very grounded. It's not very realistic. It's not very practical. But what it is imaginative and compassionate. And so this energy can amplify our imaginations. It can amplify our compassion, especially when it comes to our thoughts about others and the way we communicate. And so those are good things that can come from this energy. But I do want to mention the reason why I've been talking about this energy being extra debilitated this time around is because of the configurations that we discussed in the past couple of weeks. This is the final kind of difficulty that Mercury will have in the sign of Pisces before it moves on to Aries. So things will start to get a little bit easier for those of you who need to do things with your mind, with communication, with that logical, linear sort of energy. Just know that it's starting to shift this week, but it'll fully shift, and it'll fully shift out of this sign when we come into the weekend. And that's that energy of Mercury moving into the sign of Aries. Mercury in Aries is like, again, a night and day energy, especially because Neptune's involved at the start of this week, where all of a sudden everything clicks. Our minds go back online. Our minds might be racing. We might have a lot of really intense ideas. We might have a lot of passion bubbling up. We might decide that we want to initiate new plans, new projects. We want to communicate this thing that we've been sort of contemplating that's been kind of murky. All of a sudden, it could become very clear and very straightforward for us. And we might want to just jump right in and be very direct with it. Just know that when Mercury is in the sign of Aries, we can be a little too direct. And so Mercury in Aries can be an energy that can bring up conflict, because the way that you're thinking is a little bit more self-centered. It's a little bit more action-oriented. It's very deliberate and very straightforward, and it's much more clear. But it's kind of like an energy where you have these plans and you want them to be carried out in a certain way, or you have this idea and you want it to be expressed in a certain way, and you're a little bit too straightforward or too deliberate in your speech in a way that can be off-putting, in a way that can be alienating to others, in a way that can be abrasive, or could cause, a little bit of conflict. And so you just want to be careful in your delivery, but it is a better energy for Mercury than Mercury being in Pisces in terms of getting that clarity and getting your point across, because you will get your point across, even if it is a little too direct. So, that's the energy of Mercury moving into the sign of Aries. And those are the big energies for this week. So it's like we're moving on from a lot of the intensity we've been feeling last week, especially, and really for the last 2 weeks, but especially last week, it was like really bubbling up and we were really reaching our boiling point. Now we get to move on from that, and we get to start to find a little bit of that good energy that I've been talking about for the spring, at least to a certain extent over these next couple of weeks. And so, this is good news for the most part. And so let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, beginning with Aries and Aries rising. But before we do that, I do have just one quick announcement. For those of you who don't already know, I do have a membership community called the Cosmic Community, and we have a lot of really incredible, original, exclusive content that's being collected in there for all of you. So if you want to join a community of like-minded people, if you want to get access to exclusive webinars, live meetings and new moon gatherings, content that helps you to utilize astrology in your everyday experience, and the ability to connect with like-minded people in our community forum and in our live webinars. The link is down in the description below. We have the Karmic Power of Eclipses webinar ready for you to go. I just did a new forecast for the entire year ahead for the equinox with Raphael from Radiant Reality Tarot. So it was a combination of an astrology and a tarot reading. We have a ton of new original content coming in the next few weeks. We have a bunch of original tutorials for those who are interested in learning how to use astrology in your own life and to figure things out in your own charts, all sorts of things. So you can comment below if you have questions. The link is down in the description, and I hope to see you there. Our next new moon gathering is happening on, let's see here, April 10th. So that's kind of like the most popular thing for people to show up for in the community, where we set our intentions together. We talk about the forecast for the entire month ahead. We collaborate and connect as a group. And so let's get into the forecast for all 12 zodiac signs. And like I mentioned before, we're going to start with Aries and Aries rising. And so for Aries and for Aries rising, the main event for Aries is actually going to be a little bit more so the conjunction between the sun and Chiron, because that's happening in your sign. And so if you are an Aries and you've been feeling more awkward, if you've been feeling more vulnerable, if you've been going through a little bit of a healing crisis, or if you've been coming into your own power as a healer or something along those lines, this is the time where it becomes amplified and it reaches its peak. Especially if you're an Aries sun, moon, or rising anywhere near that 8th degree in the sign of Aries, you're going to be feeling this the most, and you're going to be feeling this healing, transformative energy very powerfully. The energy of Mercury in Pisces and conjunct Neptune is actually kind of nice. For you, this could just be you kind of fantasizing, daydreaming, spending a lot of time journaling or meditating or doing things that connect you with your spirituality. This is a really great time, especially at the start of this week, for you to use your imagination, do something creative, spend some time in contemplation, spend some time thinking things over in private, spend some time in solitude, spend some time painting or doing some sort of artwork if that's something that is applicable to you that you enjoy doing. But definitely a time to tap into your spirituality and to contemplate things from that spiritual perspective. This is also a time where messages can come through very intensely through symbolism, through impressions, through downloads, through sensations that you'll get in your dreams, and also in these meditative or transcendent states. And so again, a really great energy. Pluto's also sextiling all of this, so it's a psychic energy for sure, and you're going to be tapping into this, and you're going to be much more sensitive to it than a lot of the other signs. For Taurus and for Taurus rising. So the biggest thing, actually I should go back to Aries. So I should have mentioned Mercury's coming into your sign, obviously at the end of this week here. And so Mercury in your sign is going to make you feel much more communicative. You're going to be speaking your mind beginning this weekend and for the next 3 weeks after. You're going to be speaking your mind. You're going to be telling people exactly what you think about everything, exactly what your opinions are. And so, this is an energy where you're going to be much more social, much more talkative. And if there is something that you need to say, definitely say it, but just make sure that you're not ruining these great ideas with a delivery that is too blunt or too aggressive or too pushy. Okay. So for Taurus and for Taurus rising, Mercury conjunct Neptune in Pisces is happening in your 11th house. This is a really great time for you to use your imagination in your communications and conversations with groups of people, friends, social networks, people that you surround yourself with by choice. If you are involved in some sort of creative group or a creative group project, this is your time to shine. You're going to be really on point. You're going to be having all sorts of really creative, really unique ideas to contribute. This is also a good time for you to connect with a group of like-minded people who share in your spiritual beliefs and to engage in certain spiritual practices on a group level. This is a really good time to have compassionate, loving communication with people that you love and that you surround yourself with by choice, or to have a really deep, compassionate, sort of soul-opening conversation with somebody who you love in a one-on-one situation, especially if you're a Taurus, sun, moon, or rising anywhere around the 21st degree. So I would say really anywhere from like 16 degrees to 25 degrees, you'll be feeling that in a very positive way in that sort of interrelational level. And later this week, Mercury is actually going to go into your 12th house. And so that's going to be a little bit more introspective. You're going to be working on planning and plotting and scheming about things behind the scenes, behind closed doors. And you're kind of getting ready to put something new out there when it comes to information or some sort of new plan that you need to deliver and put out there publicly or share with somebody in some way. For Gemini and for Gemini rising. So for Geminis, this energy of the Mercury Neptune conjunction is actually happening in your 10th house, which is the house of career and public reputation. This is going to be potentially some murkiness and some challenges around miscommunications, around deception, around misinformation, around confusion, around fogginess or ambivalence involving your career, involving your public reputation, involving the legacy that you've left behind after your working years, if you're somebody who's no longer working, involving your career path in general. This is where there could be some mixed messages that you're getting from bosses, superiors, people in positions of power and authority, and it could be a little unsettling for you. If that is the case, just know that you will get clarity this weekend, but you're going to have to kind of hold off and wait for it. If something needs to happen right now involving your career, a big move or a response to something or whatever it is, take your time with it if you can. But if you can't, just make sure that you're double and triple and quadruple checking that you have all of the facts and figures and the right information before you put it out there, before you give a response, before you share that information or that insight. But what you will have is Mercury moving into your 11th house at the end of this week. And so this is going to bring you into a couple of weeks here of feeling much more social, much more outgoing, wanting to connect with like-minded people, share ideas with groups of people, connect with an online or an in-person community in some way. And so getting involved, getting out there and sharing ideas with others, communicating with your friends that maybe you haven't spoken to in a while. This is a really great way to utilize this energy, and even talking or speaking or connecting one-on-one with people to just brainstorm, bounce ideas off of each other, have really great, really, exciting conversations about the future, about what you're optimistic about what you're passionate about. This is a great energy for that, and that begins on Saturday. For Cancer and for Cancer rising. So for Cancers, Mercury and Neptune are actually in your 9th house. And so this is actually a really great energy for spiritual exploration, but especially philosophical exploration, getting a broader, more expansive, and also deeper understanding of your religious or spiritual or philosophical beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you that shape or frame your perspective on life. This is also a really great energy this week for you to learn something creative, spiritual, intuitive, or something more compassionate. So learning a skill set that falls under those realms could be helpful for you. This would also be a really great time for travel, for solitude, seclusion, rest, reprieve, travel for pleasure in particular, or to just kind of get away from the world and take a little bit of a break there. Especially if you're somebody who's able to, move into not move to a foreign country, but like travel to a foreign country or someplace that's very different from your home and your place of living. And then also at the end of this week, you're going to have Mercury transiting and moving into your 10th house of career and public standing. Your work is going to be on your mind. You're going to have a lot of communication coming in when it comes to your career path. You could also have messages, emails, text messages, phone calls coming in from people in positions of power and authority, not just in your workplace, but in general. And if you're somebody who's not working, this could be an important message about a career opportunity that comes in the next couple of weeks. You could be putting yourself out there and filling out a lot of paperwork. So like job applications, resumes, things of that nature. And if you're somebody who is retired or something along those lines, there could be a lot of communication or a lot of thought or contemplation around your public standing, your public image, and the legacy that you're leaving behind after your working years. For Leo and for Leo rising. So this energy of Mercury conjunct Neptune is happening in your 8th house, which is the house, first off, in a tangible sense, it's the house of joint finances, investments, debt, taxes, inheritance, other people's money, joint ventures in finance through marriage or through business partnership. All of those things fall under the realm of the 8th house. And so on that tangible level, this could make things kind of foggy, confusing. You could have a lot of ambivalence toward a certain financial situation or a certain joint financial venture. Just know that fogginess, that confusion will lift. And so if you can wait to take action, then that would probably be best case scenario there. However, this is a great energy for occult studies, for diving into something very deep when it comes to spirituality, mysticism, otherworldly energies, or doing some sort of spiritual or energetic healing around your past trauma, past anxieties, past fears, past experiences that are still bubbling up in your current reality. And later this week, and into the weekend specifically, you'll have Mercury moving into your ninth house, which is a great time for travel, for an adventure, to learn something through experience, to gain wisdom and insight through a new teacher or a new educational program, or for you to write, to publish, to teach something. So over the next couple of weeks, you're going to be feeling fired up to learn something new, to teach something new, to explore, to travel, to have adventures, and to get yourself out there. For Virgo and for Virgo rising, this Mercury-Neptune conjunction is happening in your seventh house, which is the house of relationships. There could be fogginess, confusion, misinformation, misunderstandings happening in your current one-on-one partnerships. This could be your marriage, your romantic partnership. This could be a business partnership, a close friendship. This could involve contracts, agreements, negotiations, or all of the above. Just know that you're seeing the other person or the other party in these types of circumstances through rose-colored glasses, right? Which can be wonderful. This is a very compassionate energy to have deep, soul-expanding, spiritual conversations, to have those deep spiritual connections with other people in your life. So this is a great energy for that, right? For something intangible. But if you're making a very concrete agreement or negotiation or signing a contract with somebody, there's something that you're probably not seeing because you're assuming the best in somebody, or maybe you're assuming the worst in them too. Sometimes it goes that way with Pisces. It's very kind of like subject to your own projections. So it's kind of like you're seeing what you want to see in the other person. And for most people, it does actually show up as like seeing the best in people. But if you're battling it out with somebody who maybe you don't get along with so much, maybe you're seeing the worst in them or expecting the worst in them. And that's not really the case. Maybe they do have your best interest at heart, or maybe they aren't being as diabolical as you might think. And so keep that in mind as well. Mercury will be moving into your eighth house over these next couple of weeks, and that begins on this weekend. And so this is going to be a time where you're going to have money on your mind. So all things involving debt, taxes, joint finances, loans, mortgage payments, things of that nature, joint finances through marriage, investments, all of the above are going to be taking up a little bit more mental space. You might have messages coming through a little bit more so than normal. Unexpected bills or things like that can come through the mail. That's something that very literally tends to happen when Mercury transits your eighth house. But this is also a time where you're going to be thinking and communicating in a way that has a lot more depth, and you're not going to really be interested in any sort of surface level conversations. You're going to want things that are deep, that are straight to the point, and that have some sort of depth of meaning. You're not going to want to have small talk. You're not going to want to have those little niceties over the next couple of weeks. Like you're in it. If you're going to get into a conversation, if you're going to get into some information, you're going to go deep. So this is a great energy for research. This is a great energy for very deliberate and intentional conversations that get to the core of things. This is a really great energy for talk therapy of all kinds. But again, it's not going to be like surface level niceties. This isn't a great time for small talk for Virgos. Okay, and then for Libra and for Libra rising. And I look off to the side, you guys, because my monitor is there. And when I switch the signs, I want to make sure that it's the right sign. So everyone keeps commenting and asking why I'm looking to my left. It's because my monitor is there instead of right in front of me, because if I put it right in front of me, you couldn't see me because it's quite large. Just to clear that up, you guys, because somebody was like, it's disturbing. Why is it disturbing that I'm looking to I don't know. Anyway. So for Libra and for Libra rising, so this energy is happening in your sixth house, which is the house of your work, your daily routines, your health, all of those things. And so there could be some miscommunication, some confusion, some murkiness, some ambivalence toward your work, toward your coworkers, toward your employees, toward work-related projects and communications that come up this week. So just make sure that you're double, triple, and quadruple checking everything, and that you're sure of what you're saying before you send that email to your coworkers or to your employees or even to your boss this week. What this is really good for at the start of this week is creative types of projects. And so if you have something that you need to do in your work that requires a high level of creativity, of imagination, of a creative mindset, then now is the time to jump right in and you will be very successful with that. However, if you have to pore over numbers, facts, figures, sort of logical linear information, not so much, right? So if you can put it off until next week after Mercury moves into Aries, then do that. There could also be some murkiness, fogginess, confusion around your health, around daily health habits and routines, or some sort of health issue this week. But this could also be a really great week for doing some sort of spiritual or energetic healing, or literally, I mean, Neptune does rule things like pharmaceutical drugs, doctors, hospitals, poisons, things of that nature too. But this energy is actually going to be in sextile with Pluto. So I do think that there is an out here, but it might be, taking either the path less taken, or maybe diving into some sort of healing modality that incorporates something that is a little bit more on the spiritual side. Or if you are taking a medicine, um, you know, I'm not going to say much more about that, but I would say just double and triple check the labels. Make sure that you understand what you're taking and why, and what the side effects and consequences might be. But if you do that, it could potentially be all right. And then we also have Mercury moving into Aries, into your seventh house this weekend. This could be you needing to have some important conversations one-on-one with your partner. If you are in partnership, in romantic or otherwise, this could be you having to sign contracts, negotiations, agreements to move forward with something. This could be you, speaking in a way in partnership that's a little too direct, a little too deliberate, a little too self-focused. But this could also be you on the receiving end of that from your partner, where you're like, whoa, why is this? Where is this coming from? Right? Why are you speaking to me in this way? Why are you so, being so blunt with me about this thing, right? Where it could be hurtful to you. And so you just want to kind of take into consideration that people might be expressing their needs to you in a way that's very straightforward, and it could be unsettling, or it could upset the balance, or you might be doing that as well. And so just be very careful in the way that you word things, and don't take things too personally when you're on the receiving end of that the next couple of weeks. So for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising, this Mercury Neptune energy is actually quite nice for Scorpios because it's happening in your fifth house, which is the house of passion and play. It's the house of fun and joy, and it's the house of your hobbies, your interests, the things that you love to do and that you do because you love to do them. It's also the house of children and your connection with children. And so there could be a lot of really great energy and a lot of things that you're contemplating or thinking about or imagining yourself doing, involving that which brings you joy, involving your children, or maybe having children in the future. Maybe you're thinking about doing something or incorporating something that's more imaginative and creative and spiritual into your day-to-day experience because it's something that you love to do. This would be a really great time to take some sort of course, or like a little short training, or even just like a fun class, like going to one of those painting classes or something like that, or doing it online if that's all that's applicable to you or available to you right now. But there is a really great energy around just connecting with the things that you love, right? So it's about doing what you love, connecting with your passions, spending time, doing things that stimulate your imagination, that stimulate your inner child. Or this could be a really great time to play or use your imagination or do something playful with your children, again, if that's applicable to you. Mercury will be moving on to Aries this weekend. So enjoy the little mental vacation while it's here, because when Mercury's in your sixth house, it's a time where you have an overload of text messages, emails, phone calls, especially related to your work. It's kind of like where you're busy with day-to-day communications, or like kind of boring day-to-day paperwork and bureaucratic stuff and things of that nature. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that we all have to do, but that's just kind of the period of time where it all tends to bubble up and you become busier with those mundane activities. And so right now you have a little bit of a mental vacation before this weekend, where you're going to have a couple of weeks beginning where you're going to be mentally a little bit more cluttered and physically a little bit more busy. For Sagittarius and for Sagittarius rising, Mercury and Neptune in your fourth house have you imagining your idealistic situation when it comes to your home, your family, your property, your place of living. But there can also be some ambivalence toward these things that you're trying to create, these plans that you're trying to make. It could be that you kind of feel good, but you kind of feel bad. You don't know how to feel about what's going on in your home environment or what's going on with your family. There could also be a lot of confusion and miscommunication involving your home, your family, your property. This is not the time to sign on the dotted line or sign some sort of important paperwork involving your home. I mean, if you approach it intuitively, and you're not trying to figure it out on too much of a logical linear level, if it just feels right to you and you're kind of going with the flow and you're in the moment and you have to sign on the dotted line for something, especially financial, involving your home or property or involving your family, then, it could definitely work for you. Again, as long as you're not trying to be too much in your head about it and you're just kind of going with the flow and feeling it out. Mercury will move into Aries at the end of this week in the weekend, and it'll remain there for a couple of weeks. And this is actually a really nice energy for Sagittarius. You're going to have a lot on your mind related to your passions, your hobbies, your interests, the things that you love. You're going to be feeling like you want to jump right in and learn about something or communicate to others these things that you are so deeply passionate about, these things that bring you so much joy. This could also be you just feeling like you want to engage more on a mental level or on a communication level with children or with your own children. And that could be a big part of this energy too. But a lot of this energy is going to be shifting from thinking a lot about your home, your family, your roots, your ancestry, to thinking more about, what brings you joy, what lights you up, what causes you to feel excitement in life, and how can you incorporate that a little bit more into your day-to-day experience through either, communicating it with others or sharing it with others, or through learning something new that you can bring to the table. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising. So for Capricorn, this energy is happening in your third house, which is the house of communication. And this is actually quite nice for Capricorns, especially if you're a sun, moon, rising, anywhere from, what did we say before, 16 to 25 degrees. You're going to be feeling this in a very positive way when it comes to first off, your personal experience with it, because it'll be sextiling your ascendant, sun, or moon, but especially in relationships for those who are Capricorn risings. This is a really great time for utilizing your imagination when it comes to writing projects or marketing projects or communication projects or learning pursuits or teaching pursuits. This would be a really great time for a short trip where you kind of go for rest, solitude, contemplation, to take a little mini vacation or a little mini break from reality this week, especially if you do that in partnership with somebody else. This could be a really great time to visualize what you want when it comes to vehicles or when it comes to community or your neighbors or your neighborhood. All of those things are applicable here, where you can visualize what you want and communicate it, and you can potentially draw that into your life a lot more easily. But this is especially a really great time for deep, soulful, compassionate conversations and communications with others, especially in romantic partnership or, when it comes to connecting with people or members in your community. The energy of Mercury is going to be shifting into your fourth house at the end of this week into the weekend. And it'll stay there for a couple of weeks. You're going to have a lot of busyness when it comes to your home, family, and property. And so basically when Mercury is in Aries in your fourth house, this is a time where you're going to have a lot of communication, a lot of messages, a lot of text message, emails, phone calls from your family, especially from your parents and your immediate family. You could have messages, paperwork, things of that coming through involving your home or your property. There's going to be a lot more to do on a day-to-day level and a lot more cluttering your mind on a day-to-day level in the home and in the area of family. For Aquarius and for Aquarius rising, this Mercury-Neptune conjunction is happening in your second house, which is the house of finances. And so the second house is all about money. It's about things that are super tangible. And although you have this energy of Pisces in your second house, which is kind of an intangible energy around money anyway, but this kind of amplifies that. And so what I mean by that is it could feel right now, like this week, that money is just slipping right through your fingertips. It comes in when you need it, but it sort of dissolves, and it's really hard for you to hold on to your resources. When it comes to making important purchases this week, you might be seeing what you want to see and not necessarily what's realistic when it comes to your finances. And so, if you can hold off for just a few days, if you can spend a little bit more time contemplating before you make a major purchase, if you can make sure that the offer isn't actually too good to be true, if it feels too good to be true, it probably is here. It could be that there's somebody who's miscommunicating the value of what it is that you're trying to purchase, or it could be that you're you're not perceiving it correctly. And so you just want to make sure that you're very clear on what you're spending your money on and why. Also, this could be a time where money sort of flows into your bank account unexpectedly, probably a little like a smaller chunk, but still that could be a part of this energy as well. And this is a really great time for you to plan what you want, or to think about what you want for your future when it comes to your finances, and to visualize that and to visualize what it'll feel like so you can draw it into your life into the future. Mercury will be moving on to the sign of Aries later this week and into the weekend, where it'll stay for a couple of weeks. And this is going to be a really enthusiastic, really exciting, really passionate energy around learning, around connecting with your community, around communicating with others. Your mind's going to be very busy, and your mouth will be quite busy as well, because you're going to be way more talkative, and you're going to be sharing a lot more information and connecting with a lot more people for the next couple of weeks. And so this is usually a time where your phone is blowing up, where your emails are blowing up, where you're having a lot of really interesting, exciting, and passionate conversations with other people. This is also really great for one-on-one connections with others, or for signing contracts, negotiations, agreements, things like that over the next couple of weeks. And this is also a really great time for a quick trip. So if you're feeling bored and you're feeling stagnant in your current environment, go wherever you can, even if it's just a small day trip. It could also be a mental trip, right, through learning something new in bite-sized pieces that could light you up about new ideas and new possibilities. This is also a really great time to engage in some sort of teaching, speaking, writing, something along those lines as well. Okay. And for Pisces rising. So for Pisces, this energy is happening in your sign, Pisces. And so this could be a good energy for Pisces. It's kind of all over the place. So for Pisces, your mind might be racing. You might have a lot more communication come in. You might have a lot more ideas coming in. You might feel more social, or you might have a lot more to share with other people. However, your mind could be a little scattered, a little all over the place, a little off in la la land. This is an energy where your imagination could be running wild. And so if you harness that in a positive way, then that could be absolutely wonderful for you. But it could also leave you kind of feeling like a space cadet this week. And so you might be kind of spacing out. You might be making, silly mistakes with your speech and with your plans and with your communications. And so just kind of keep that in mind. And you might not be perceiving things or thinking about things in a very logical, clear, or linear fashion, even more so than normal. And so while this is really great for feeling more compassionate, feeling more empathic, communicating ideas that are really creative, really out there, imagining things, all of that, it's not the best for getting your point across in a way that's very straightforward and deliberate. Later this week, when we come into the weekend, Mercury is actually going to be transiting your second house. And so you'll have a lot more energy and momentum around your plans, your budget, things like that surrounding your resources. And so you might be contemplating or thinking about new ways of creating resources. You might have a lot of communication going in and out around your resources, around money, around major purchases, around rebalancing your budget, around, promotions and raises and things like that. There's a lot of conversation and messages going in and out around finances specifically, and it's a really good time over the next couple of weeks to get your ducks in a row when it comes to your financial plans, your budget, your spreadsheets, whatever it is that you use, and things like that. All right, and so that is the forecast for all 12 signs. And so let's get into next week's overview here, because next week we actually have a fresh start coming up. We have a really powerful new moon in the sign of Aries. And so the new moon in Aries each year is like a huge momentum builder. It's kind of like the sun moves into Aries and we feel like, all right, we're ready to go. But then that first new moon in Aries like supercharges us and propels us forward. It's the most active and action oriented new moon. It's the biggest new moon for new beginnings each year because we have the moon in the very first sign of the zodiac, right? So that's very symbolic of that, but it's in a cardinal fire sign, which is all about taking action, jumping in, building that momentum. It's all about your passions, your drive, your ambitions. It's about acting on your will. And so this is going to light us up and get things going for us, especially after having so much sort of murky Piscean energy and so much confusing energy and so much volatility over the past couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to this new moon on Sunday the 11th, which we'll be talking about in next week's forecast. And we'll actually be doing the new moon gathering for the cosmic community on Saturday the 10th at noon Mountain Daylight Time. So if you're in the community, mark your calendars. If you're not in the community, you can join the cosmic community down in the description below at the link that I provided. And every single Saturday prior to each new moon, we go through and we talk about the energy of the new moon. I give a detailed PDF that has journal prompts and describes the energy for each of the signs and what types of intentions you should set and what will work best for you. We go through and set our intentions together. We talk about all of the major energies that will be playing out in the entire next lunar month. And so that's something that I really enjoy doing each month. And I know my community really loves it. And so you can join in as well. Again, the link is down in the description below. And so that's it for this week, you guys. So I will see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.